සුපිරි අධිවේගයක් පරදා ඔබ මවිත කරවන වේගයක් විඳ ගන්න. පියවර 3කින් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම් ෆයිබර් ඔප්ටික් ජාලයට එක්වන්න. slp.lk වෙත පිවිසෙන්න.
Good evening. Tonight, safeguarding the environment. President Maithripala Sirisena says that the Environment Ministry was taken under him in order to prevent the pollution of nature by politicians. Rim of the Pacific 2018. The United States hands over a warship to Sri Lanka, which in turn becomes the biggest warship to be gifted to the island. Flying free. Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Nima Siripala De Silva says that he prefers the domestic aviation sector to be made tax-free.
The VAT must be exempted. How it could be done is left to the Minister of Finance. We need a national airline, but of course at what cost?
One for the history books. The full moon will turn blood red tomorrow as the longest total lunar eclipse of the century takes place in the skies from Australia through to Africa.
The longest total lunar eclipse starts at 10:45 p.m.
And in international headlines, the man of the match. Former cricket legend Imran Khan claims victory in Pakistan's general election amid accusations of vote rigging by rivals. Live across the nation, this is Sri Lanka's news channel, Derana 24/7. Hello everyone, I'm Mahesh Johnny and welcome to First at 9. A cricket legend is now set to become Pakistan's 19th Prime Minister. We'll have all the details on our international segment coming up, but first, as always, let's begin here at home. President Maithripala Sirisena says that he assumed duties of the Ministry of Environment after being elected as the president to prevent the environmental destruction that takes place amidst political blessing. The president made this remark at an event held at the Namal Uyana.
The president participated in the inauguration of the Namal Uyana Development Program worked off under the Central Cultural Fund.
I'm surprised that you still haven't used your executive powers. I call on you to use them for the betterment of the country. Media would say various things, but I prefer reinstating that penalty. Do not categorize this by only executing drug traffickers. People who destroy the environment should also be executed. During the past 50 years of deforestation, politicians are held responsible. 1.4% of the forest is destroyed annually. When I was elected president, leaders of 49 political organizations who supported me asked me to take over any ministry that I see fit for the development of the country, in addition to the Ministry of Defense. When I came across that proposal, without hesitating for a second, I said that I wanted the Ministry of Environment.
Minister of Justice and Prison Reforms Thalatha Athukorala has ordered the immediate disbanding of the Valikada Prison's Intelligence Unit. Releasing a media communique, the Ministry of Justice said the decision was taken following the findings of an investigation conducted into several irregularities and corruption reported within the Department of Prisons. Meanwhile, early in the day, Minister Athukorala insisted that she is not hesitant in taking stern action against corrupt officials within the Department of Prisons. Addressing an event held at the Valikada prison, she added that questionable actions of a few are bringing the entire department into disrepute.
Study Centre of the Valikada prison was declared open today under the patronage of Minister of Justice and Prison Reforms Thalatha Athukorala and Minister of Education Akila Viraj Karyavasam. A book featuring poems composed by inmates of the prison was also launched with the initiation of the Reforms Unit of the Prisons Department.
Minister of Justice is also present here at the moment. So I would like to propose that we both get together to present a cabinet paper requesting that inmates who have read the most books should have their jail term reduced. Let's appoint a committee and let them decide on the number of days to be taken off inmate sentences. This may give some manner of benefit for those incarcerated for life. We hope the request will be granted.
Although it was a rather impulsive proposal, I would like to definitely support it. But we will only focus on inmates who have not perpetrated severe and organized crimes. There are both corrupt and clean officials within the prisons department. But because of the things the corrupt officials do, the entire department is being highlighted by media. And some of these media reports are not false. We will have to take stern actions regarding these issues within the department. I would also like to say that I'm not a person who would hesitate to take such actions.
Leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and Professor of Law G.L. Peiris claims the government's move to reinstate capital punishment is nothing but a mere tactic which targets the upcoming polls and that it never harboured any genuine intention to follow it through. Addressing a seminar in Colombo yesterday on the topic of death penalty organised by the West End Law Centre, Professor Peiris backed up the claim, saying that the government's proposed method of implementing capital punishment is contrary to the law and therefore it cannot be done. Addressing the same forum, researcher of international law Amila Vijayasinghe meanwhile stressed the decision to implement capital punishment should not be politicised or influenced by responses of foreign nations.
The justifications for the death penalty usually boil down to two main points: punishment and deterrence. While some people argue that it conflicts with the right to life, in international law there is no absolute right to life. The ICCPR prohibits the arbitrary deprivation of life. So as long as there is due process and proportionality, this is not at odds with the death penalty, as it can be lawfully and non-arbitrarily imposed. This is why there is a second optional protocol to the ICCPR, which is voluntary to sign up to, and states which sign up to this would undertake to ensure that no one will be executed within its jurisdiction, and it will take all necessary steps to abolish the death penalty. So it's clear in international law, or at least in a legal sense, a state can enforce the death penalty. The moral and ethical question of whether it should is a much more difficult one that requires a deep look into how we view the criminal justice system and what we expect from it. The second point, which is very popular, I think, among people at the moment, is deterrence. This is the idea that enforcing the death penalty will dissuade future criminals. There has been a great deal of research on this topic, and yet no conclusive answer as to whether the death penalty is more useful as a deterrent than other forms of punishment, such as life imprisonment. And it should not be influenced by cheap political theatrics, nor by the intuitions of other countries and threats such as withdrawing GSP concessions.
Meanwhile, Professor of Law parliamentarian G.L. Peiris claimed that the government's proposed method of implementation of the capital punishment is illegal.
The program President Maithripala Sirisena proposes is illegal. He says a committee will be appointed to decide on who should be hanged and who should not. This method is not something we can implement as per the law of the country. This is not a proposal they presented with aspirations of its implementation. They are only using a tactic here. No matter how many times we argue about this issue, it won't be implemented.
Meanwhile, questions were raised about the views on the legal system of Sri Lanka.
When we have law and order in a country, why that it is not really functioning in this country?
The law and order is absolutely fair for the simple reason this country is being governed for the last 70 years by a group of criminal elements. Very sad to say that. They are not least bothered about your democratic rights and your sovereign rights. They use all the organs. 4 former Chief Justices, all are charged for corruption. When the law and order is failed, you can't expect a system to work.
So actually the problem is that the government doesn't want to have an independent police service in this country, because then they know that they will lose their grip on the police service, which is now being utilized for political work.
We have a system in the UK, when a police officer, when the complaint comes against the police officer, right, they have absolute power and authority to deal with it, whereas this law which is created, this police commission, they don't have such power.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa reminds the public of the dark times that prevailed in the country. Addressing a religious function held in the area of Kudamaduwa in Homagama today, the former president alluded to the times of conflict and said, and some people have forgotten an era where a flag of mourning was an all too frequent sight at households.
We had an era when tears were frequent. Sometimes we did not have a single day in a village where a white flag was not hoisted. During those days we had a country full of weeping people. We were capable of wiping away their tears. When I heard some people speak about the freedom and warn the public that they will have to cry in the future, I feel that they have completely forgotten that dark and dangerous era in the country's history. They have forgotten that darkest era when tears were frequently shed. Anyway, it is a matter of regret that they use scare tactics on the public.
Venerable Uduwe Dhammalukathera, who boarded a flight at the Bandaranaike International Airport to embark for the United Kingdom, was asked to disembark this morning due to an issue over the date of the Thera's overseas travel ban mentioned in the court order. Immigration and immigration officials said that even though the Thera's travel ban had been temporarily lifted for the period between the 26th of August to the 12th of September, he could not be permitted to leave earlier than that. Venerable Uduwe Dhammalukathera is accused of keeping an elephant calf without a license. The committee which was appointed to deliberate the prospect of imminently holding provincial council elections had its inaugural session at the parliamentary complex today. Speaking to media, Joint Opposition's parliamentary group leader Dinesh Gunawardene, however, said that the committee failed to arrive at a final decision on holding provincial council polls.
The committee which was appointed deliberate possibilities on holding the provincial council elections soon met this morning under Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
A final decision was not taken. We decided to meet again next week. The government is afraid of an election. We're always asking them to go for an election. We will take to the streets if the government fails to hold elections. We all said that elections should be held soon. No one there wanted to postpone elections. If the joint opposition really wants elections soon, they must agree to go with the previous system. If we are to hold elections according to the new system, there are things to be attended. MP Dinesh Gunawardene's stance was not clear, however. I felt he doesn't like to proceed with the previous system. However, as far as I know, most of joint opposition MPs are willing to proceed under the previous system, and that is the case with most of the UNP MPs as well. I am unsure as to whether Minister Faisal Mustafa is voicing the opinion of the President. However, the President told us that he will discuss with the minority parties and make a decision.
Member of the SLFP Group of 16, Parliamentarian Dilan Pereira accuses Parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran Jampathy Wickremaratne for influencing the expert committee who advises the Constituent Assembly which drafts the new constitution.
There was a Constituent Assembly that was established, under which there was a steering committee formed and there were 6 subcommittees formed, and the subcommittee report was presented to Parliament and it was debated in Parliament, and then there were 3 major areas, topics that were not discussed in subcommittees that were discussed at the steering committee level. And those 3 major areas were electoral reforms, devolution of power, the abolition of the executive presidency. The steering committee, we convened as a Constituent Assembly and debated these 3 issues in Parliament for about 4 or 5 days. And after all these debates were over, when the steering committee met, we requested the experts who are helping the steering committee to give us a discussion paper so that the steering committee can sit down and then prepare a final draft for the amendment of the constitution. So while these experts were going on preparing their documents for the main discussion paper, there was a coup, sort of a coup inside the experts committee, influenced by Honorable Sumandiran and Honorable Jampathy Wickremaratne, who are not members of the experts committee. They got hold of one member and tried to insert their own views into a document which was exposed soon, so he could not push the one-member report through that member itself. Then they got hold of 5 more experts and got their consent for this one-man report through email, not even the signatures. One person gave his consent from Canada. So this came into light during the last steering committee meeting. Mr. Sumandiran and Mr. Jampathy Wickremaratne, by trying to bulldoze their way through, scuttle the whole process. So the Prime Minister advised the experts to get together and try to compile a discussion paper for all of us to discuss about and try to come to some consensus. If they can't come to consensus, well, they can have a majority report and a minority report. It doesn't matter. But you must not bypass the process.
Minister of Health Dr. Rajda Senaratne stresses the importance of looking into the future of medicine as generalized medicine practice in present day is becoming obsolete. The minister elaborated on the subject while addressing an event organized to hand over appointment letters to physicians in the state sector.
What is this health services? We all are talking about the health services for today. No, if we plan it for today, there is no purpose. We have to plan it for at least today for another 25 years or further beyond that. So it will be transforming it. There is a new medicine called. Now we learn from Hippocrates in the 17th century up to now. All what we have learned is one methodology in medicine. What did you learn? You diagnose a disease, then you treat the disease. What is the future medicine? It is not that. It is not that what Hippocrates preached. It is not what we have preached. There is a new medicine called molecular medicine. That is called genomics. That is called personalized medicine. There is a treatment personalized to individual, not a generalized treatment like today, what you have learned. So you will have to learn this. In 20 years' time, this world will be governed by, not by this medicine, but by the molecular medicine. So they don't treat the disease. They are not worried about the disease. They will identify the DNA which is responsible for that disease. They will identify the DNA, then they will detect the DNA, then they will treat the DNA. That's all. So that is the medicine that will come up in, they say in 20 years' time, that is the medicine which has to be practiced.
Government Medical Officers Association has decided to move for an island-wide strike on the 3rd of next month, charging that authorities have failed to provide solutions to their 10 demands. Among their demands is the formation of a national trade policy. Assistant Secretary of the GMOA, Dr. Samantha Ananda, announced their decisions at a media briefing yesterday and said that authorities still have time to discuss their demands.
One of the main demand that we are highlighting is the need of a national trade policy before signing or before going for a international trade agreements. Once the trade agreement, bilateral trade agreements are signed, it is out of our jurisdiction, and the problems or any negatives that country is going to face or the people of the country is going to face has to be dealt in international arbitrations. The Singapore agreement has serious negative aspects that country is going to face presently and in future. Therefore, we would like to ask from these politicians who raise their voice and the muscles against the GMOA for pointing out these problems, whether they have raised their voice against the 1,600 millions of rupees that we are losing annually as tax by this agreement. So we are going for the trade union action on 3rd of August, but still there is a way, there is enough room for the relevant authorities to come forward and discuss and solve these problems with consensus and discussions.
The full moon will turn blood red tomorrow as the longest total lunar eclipse of the century takes place in the skies from Australia through to Africa. A total lunar eclipse occurs when the moon passes through the Earth's innermost shadow and the moon turns rusty orange or deep red in colour.
The longest lunar eclipse of the 21st century will be visible in the skies tomorrow from Australia through to Africa. Tomorrow, the moon will be fully engulfed in the heart of Earth's shadow for an impressive hour, 42 minutes and 57 seconds. According to the organization Earth Sky, the longest possible duration of a lunar eclipse is 1 hour and 47 minutes. Unlike a solar eclipse, no special equipment or glasses are needed to view a total lunar eclipse. After tomorrow, a total lunar eclipse of this length will occur until the 9th of June in 2123.
The longest total lunar eclipse that we can see in 100 years will be there on 27th of July in the night, and the eclipse starts at 10:45 p.m. with the entering of the moon into the Earth's less dark penumbra area. The eclipse will be visible to us from 11:54 to 3:49 in the following day morning. The total eclipse will start at 1 a.m. on 28th, and it will be there for 1 hour and 43 minutes. This longest duration is due to the moon is going around the Earth in an elliptical orbit, and on this day the moon will be the furthest distance from the Earth. So the moon will be moving a little bit slower than when it is closer. so the duration is longer. This moon is also known as a blood moon because of the scattering of the solar radiation from the Earth's atmosphere. The red light will go onto the shadow and causing the moon not very black dark patch but a little red color.
Also in local news tonight, Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Nima Siripala De Silva prefers the domestic aviation sector to be exempt from VAT in order to boost the industry. Speaking at an event held at the Civil Aviation Authority in Katnayake today, the minister highlighted the desire to retain the national carrier Sri Lankan and make it financially viable owing to the pride of place it holds in the country's aviation industry.
This domestic terminal is one of the important factors. We have to put up that very soon and give a boost to the domestic aviation industry. We are giving all the concessions which are needed. It is my view that the VAT must be exempted. As a national policy, how it could be done is left to the Minister of Finance. In the same time, we need more space in the BIA, and we have to develop Mattala, which way we have taken certain actions that of course people criticize. In time to come, people will see whether the steps we have taken is correct or wrong. In the same time, interim terminal will be built within 9 months, so then we can accommodate the excess passengers who are coming to BIA. The basic problem had been the Sri Lankan Airlines. If we can restructure at least break-even point, I think Sri Lanka can save a lot of money. We need a national airline. That is a prestigious part of our aviation industry. But of course, at what cost and what price is the problem? Somehow we must try to retain the Sri Lankan Airlines, its identity, and make it more viable. Everything can't be done by the government alone. The private sector also should come in.
The world's largest international maritime warfare exercise, Rim of the Pacific 2018, is being conducted in Honolulu of Hawaii. In line with it, the United States have decided to hand over a warship to Sri Lanka, which in turn becomes the biggest warship to be gifted to the island.
Rim of the Pacific 2018, the world's largest international maritime exercise, is currently being worked off in Honolulu of Hawaii. This biennial event includes rehearsal scenarios that cover disaster relief, amphibious operations, anti-piracy work, missile shots, mine clearance, maritime security and anti-submarine warfare as well as air defense operations. Sri Lanka was invited for the maritime exercise for the first time, where they are trained by US Navy officials. Other Derana was privileged enough to have exclusive access to the warfare exercise. In line with RIMPAC 2018, the US have decided to hand over a warship to Sri Lanka, which will be the biggest warship gifted to the country. The 115-meter-long warship named Sherman is equipped with a wide array of naval arms and modern technology. The ship is also being newly kitted to suit the conditions in Sri Lanka under the supervision of the vessel's US captain. Derana spoke to the captain of the warship, where he shared reasons behind the US gifting the vessel to Sri Lanka, as well as the progress of the training sessions.
They've done an amazing amount of work over the last 50 years for the Coast Guard, so we're excited to transfer it because we know it's still very capable. Well, the training's been going exceptional, and we've been working very closely with my current crew, teaching them all the ins and outs. It's a lot to learn.
Sri Lankan Navy personnel were seen being trained by US Navy officials on the technical process of the warship.
When this ship arrives in Sri Lanka, it will be the biggest ship in our Navy. The main weapon of this warship will also be the biggest active weapon of the Navy, and the vessel will boost our naval strength.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Business news now. A potential trade meltdown between the United States and the European Union, with President Donald Trump agreed to lower trade barriers with the EU. It, however, comes at a cost to the EU, since in return, the EU had to commit to import more soya beans and liquefied natural gas from the US. Some see this as a victory for the US head of state, but others say the agreements on LNG and soybeans were not highly significant, and the avoidance of disaster is not a success.
US President Donald Trump has saved US-EU trade relations from the brink of a trade war as he announced his agreement to work towards lowering trade barriers with the European Union. Trump made the announcement yesterday alongside the European Commission chief Jean-Claude Juncker. Some see the result of the talks between the two as favouring the US, since Trump managed to get the EU to commit to purchase more soybean and import liquid natural gas from the US.
Already today, the United States and the European Union have a $1 trillion bilateral trade relationship, the largest economic relationship anywhere in the world. This is why we agreed today, first of all, to work together towards zero tariffs, zero non-tariff barriers, and zero subsidies on non-auto industrial goods. Soybeans is a big deal, and the European Union is going to start almost immediately to buy a lot of soybeans. We have some tariffs that are retaliatory, and that will get resolved as part of what we're doing.
We've decided to strengthen our cooperation on energy. The EU will build more terminals to import liquefied natural gas from the US. This is also a message for others. We agreed to establish a dialogue on standards. As far as agriculture is concerned, the European Union can import more soybeans from the US, and it will be done.
To the stock market now, Sri Lankan shares extended their losses to a fourth straight session today as foreign investors sold blue chip stocks. The all-share price index ended 0.14% weaker at 6,153.99. The index dropped 0.47% this week, its first weekly fall in 3, bringing its year-to-date losses to 3.4%. Let's now cross over to Imesh Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,881.74 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 137.31 million rupees and foreign sales were 306.88 million rupees. There were 7 crossings today and the crossing turnover was 244.28 million rupees.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
International news now. Early results from Pakistan's election suggest ex-cricket star Imran Khan is on course to become the 19th Prime Minister of Pakistan. With nearly half the votes counted from yesterday's parliamentary election, Khan's PTI party is in the lead, and its leader Khan gave a televised interview declaring victory for his party. He is expected to fall short of an overall majority and to seek coalition partners. Now, officials deny claims of vote rigging made by Khan's rivals.
Former cricketer Imran Khan has claimed victory in Pakistan's election amid accusations of vote rigging by rivals. In a television address, he said, quote, "We were successful and we were given a mandate," unquote. His PTI party is still expected to fall short of an overall majority and to seek coalition partners. Campaigning has been marred by violence. On voting day, a bomb killed 31 people at a polling station. Khan, the charismatic aristocrat, who captained Pakistan to a World Cup victory in 1992, has long shed his celebrity playboy image and has recently faced accusations that his election challenge was benefiting from military interference in the nuclear-armed republic. An official confirmation of the vote is expected to come later in the evening. The party of disgraced former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, which is led by his brother Shehbaz, has rejected the results, as have a host of smaller parties, all alleging vote rigging and manipulation. Jubilant supporters danced in the streets of Islamabad as news of Imran Khan's lead in the polls were reported.
A bit of tennis after first seed Dominic Thiem's win yesterday in German Open in Hamburg. Second seed Diego Schwartzman was not to be outdone by, as he too put an emphatic performance to ensure passage to quarterfinals yesterday. Clay court specialist Fernando Verdasco, however, was dumped out of the Open by world number 146.
Second seed Diego Schwartzman outplayed German qualifier Daniel Mazur 6-2, 6-2 to move into the quarterfinals of the German Tennis Championships in Hamburg yesterday. Earlier in the day, Brazil's Thiago Monteiro rallied from a set down to overcome clay court specialist Fernando Verdasco 3-6, 6-2, 7-5. World number 146 Monteiro will look to reach only his second semi-final of the season when he takes on Slovakia's Josef Kovalik, who raced past German Rudolf Molleker 6-4, 6-0. Leonardo Mayer meanwhile swept aside Guy Monfils yesterday to ensure he went through the quarterfinals of the tournament. Argentine Mayer stormed to a 6-1 lead in the first set, and although Frenchman Monfils came out fighting in the second set, it was not enough as Mayer also clinched the second set 7-5. Mayer will now face fellow Argentine Diego Schwartzman in the quarters.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
A very good evening to our viewers and welcome to Forecast First. Starting off with your temperatures for tomorrow, that will vary between 20 and 36 degrees Celsius, with the highest of 36 expected in Batticaloa. Well, when looking at the map, a low pressure zone will develop in the western province and will gradually disappear. Well, the areas of Jaffna, Mannar, Anuradhapura will experience sunny weather, while the areas of Vaunia, Putlam, Batticaloa, Kandy, Colombo, Galle and Matara will experience showers, with thunder activity also expected. That's all from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. First at 9 will return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. And on a programming note, at 10:30 tonight, you can join Indi Vrigamuatha at Hyde Park. Tonight's guest is economist Indrajit Aponso. Now, before we wrap things up, we'd like to take you to the procession of the Perahara in Katharagama, which is currently underway. We just received this footage of Taska Vasana at the Devalaya being meticulously costumed to accommodate the casket in line with ancient traditions. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.